All right, so we've all heard the big promises about self-driving cars, right? Safer roads, way easier commutes, the whole deal. But behind all that hype is a gigantic question. How can we actually be sure they're safe? And maybe more importantly, how do you prove it? That's what we're going to unpack today.
So let's just jump right in with the core problem. Think about it. A really serious accident, thankfully, is a super rare event for a human driver. So how on earth do you build a test for an automated car for something that might only pop up once every million or even 10 million miles? It's a massive statistical puzzle.
Now I know what you're probably thinking. Well, can't you just drive a lot? But it turns out, just racking up miles on the road is not going to cut it. For one, the cost would be absolutely insane. And maybe more importantly, you could drive for years and still completely miss that 1 in a million weird situation that actually causes a problem. It's just not practical.
Okay, so if the old way of thinking, just driving around, is a dead end, what's the solution? Well, this brings us to a whole new way of looking at the problem, a really comprehensive framework that was built specifically for this challenge.
And here it is. It's called NAT, which is short for the New Assessment/Test Method for Automated Driving. Now, this was introduced by the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe, the UNECE. And that's a key detail, because this isn't just one car company's idea. This is an international framework that's becoming the global standard for how we check if these cars are safe.
And listen, this is not just some dusty academic paper. This is happening right now. Look at this timeline. The framework was introduced in early 2021, and by the summer of 2022, the European Commission had already written it into official regulations. This is the system being used today to approve new automated vehicles for the road.
So the big question is, how does this NATM thing actually work? Well, the best way to get your head around it is to think of it like a structure, a strong one that's built on what they call the 5 pillars of trust.
So here they are, the 5 pillars that hold up the whole safety argument. You've got virtual testing, that's in the computer, then track testing on a closed, controlled course. After that, real-world testing out on public roads. Then in-service monitoring, which keeps an eye on the cars after they're sold, and finally, an audit of the whole entire process. And just like the legs on a table, you really need all 5. Take one away, and the whole thing gets wobbly.
Now, this is what's so interesting. What's actually revolutionary here? I mean, track tests, real-world driving, audits. Car companies have been doing that stuff for decades, right? The two real game changers in this official process are virtual testing and in-service monitoring. Virtual testing lets you get to a massive scale before a car even exists, and in-service monitoring creates this constant feedback loop from every car on the road. Both are huge.
And of those 2 big additions, virtual testing is probably the single biggest leap. Simulation has always been a handy tool for engineers during development. But what's totally different now is that it's no longer optional. It's a mandatory, critical piece of the official certification puzzle. So yeah, let's dig into that a little deeper, because this really is a massive shift in how we think about car safety. What does it actually mean to do your testing inside a virtual world?
Well, why is simulation so powerful? You can do things that are just impossible in the real world. You can drive millions of virtual miles overnight to really build up that statistical confidence. You can zero in on one tiny part of the system, like a single sensor, and test it relentlessly. And maybe the most important part? You can use simulation to hunt for those super rare, super dangerous scenarios, and then use that knowledge to design smarter real-world tests.
Okay, but there's always a but, isn't there? A simulation is, well, it's just that, a simulation. It's a model of the real world, not the real thing. It has what the source material calls intrinsic limited fidelity. Basically, the physics might be a tiny bit off, or the sensor model isn't quite perfect. And that leads to the million-dollar question, doesn't it? If we know for a fact that the simulation isn't a perfect copy of reality, how in the world can we trust its results for something as important as safety certification? While the answer is another formal process, this one called a credibility assessment. And this isn't just a gut check, not just a thumbs up that it looks good. It is a super rigorous process for figuring out exactly how reliable that simulation is and how well its results actually match up with the real world. In other words, you have to test the test. And to really get this, we all kind of need to be speaking the same language. So let's quickly run through these key safety terms. Verification basically asks, did we build the system the right way, according to the plans? But validation asks a totally different question. Did we build the right system in the first place? Does it actually solve the problem? Then you have assurance, which is all about building confidence in the whole process. And finally, certification. That's the official stamp of approval from the authorities.
Okay, so this all sounds really good on paper, right? But is anyone actually doing this? Let's take a look at how this whole framework is moving from technical documents to the actual freeway. And the answer is a big yes. What's so cool is that this is not happening in a bubble. You've got government regulators like the Vehicle Authority in the Netherlands working hand in hand with the EU's own research body and industry giants like Siemens to literally write the handbook for this stuff. They're creating the step-by-step guide together. And the scale of this effort is just enormous. Just look at this list of huge publicly funded research projects in the European Union. Projects like FOSETA, AIthena, Sunrise, they are all laser-focused on building out and perfecting every little part of this safety framework. It's a massive, coordinated push.
And this quote from the source material really gets right to the heart of why this is also necessary. The increased complexity necessitates a radical change of test methods. Basically, today's automated cars are so incredibly complex that the old ways of testing them just can't keep up anymore. We have to have new methods, both in the real world and the virtual one. So, if there's one thing you remember from all of this, let it be this. Proving a self-driving car is safe isn't about passing one giant final exam. It's about building a solid, convincing case for safety with evidence from all those different pillars, virtual, track, and real world, all working together.
And that kind of leaves us with one final thought to chew on. As this super rigorous framework for proving technical safety becomes the global standard, it solves one huge piece of the puzzle. So the question is, what's the next great challenge that we have to tackle on the road to full autonomy?